Chapter 2452. The guide was Gu Jingyu. No one in the Battle King's residence dared to stop them. The few of them swaggered out of the Battle King's residence. The commoners were astonished when they saw Yiqing Luo and the rest walking out. They were even more curious about the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Battle King's residence. The few of them walked all the way to the Peach Blossom restaurant under the attention of the commoners. Only then did they block those gazes outside. Yiqing Luo then opened her mouth. Young matriarch Gu, thank you for today. If it wasn't for Gu Jingyu's arrival. If it wasn't for Gu Jingyu who broke his persona and stood up for her. Although it wasn't that they couldn't leave the Battle King's residence. At least it wouldn't be so smooth. And it wouldn't make the Battle King dig his own grave. There was no need for her to lead intentionally. Today's matter in the Battle King's residence would definitely be spread out through some channels. You know what I want is not your thanks. Gu Jingyu's brows regained his gentleness and elegance. That pair of eyes was so gentle as though it contained a pool of warm water. The two people beside him upon hearing this sentence, suddenly opened their eyes wide. They looked at Yiqing Luo in unison and then looked at Gu Jingyu. They were stunned for quite some time. Jun Qingwu's hand slowly moved onto Yiqing Luo's body. Her slender fingers pinched fiercely on her waist as though she was questioning her what was going on. Yiqing Luo was also stunned. Hadn't she resolutely pinched this peach blossom? Why did Gu Jingyu still say such ambiguous words? This was to make Xiao Wu and Mao Mao misunderstand the rhythm. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, raised her eyes and stared straight into Gu Jingyu's eyes. Young matriarch Gu, what I can give you is only a word of thanks. Saying that, she directly turned around and walked towards the direction of the backyard. Gu Jingyu's expression froze for a moment. He hurriedly chased up a few steps. Miss Yi, I don't have any other intention. I just want to see. Master Gu. Jun Qingwu had already blocked in front of Gu Jingyu. She raised her head slightly. That cool and elegant face had no fluctuations of emotions. His eyes were filled with coldness and there was a gloomy luster in them. Gu Jingyu stopped in his tracks. Miss? I don't care what you think about Xiao Luo, I'm warning you. You better stifle it. Jun Qingwu warned coldly. Gu Jingyu pursed his thin lips, a look of struggle and reluctance on his face. Even though you're Miss Ye's friend, you can't stop me from loving Miss Mu Yi. I forgot to mention I'm not just Xiao Luo's friend. Jun Qingwu smirked. I'm also Xiao Luo's fiancé's friend. Fiancé? Gu Jingyu's body trembled and stiffened. Looking at Gu Jingyu's reaction. Jun Qingwu also knew about Dizun. Qing Luo must have told Gu Jingyu about this. Jun Qingwu's smile grew colder. So, I'm sure you know why I'm with little Luo. Gu Jingyu's face was filled with disbelief. A pained expression appeared on his face. He stood stiffly on the spot. Motionless. It was as if he was unable to recover from the pain. Jun Qingwu casted a cold glance at him as he couldn't be bothered to talk to him. He pulled Kitty Li and walked towards the direction where Yiqing Luo had left. Miss. Behind him, Gu Jingyu's dry and hoarse voice was heard. Jun Qingwu turned his head back and met with Gu Jingyu's sorrowful gaze. Chapter 2453. Jun Qingwu. This child still didn't believe her? She was amused. Young sect master Gu, do you think I would joke around with little Luo's innocence? Gu Jingyu hurriedly shook his head. I don't mean that. I just... Jun Qingwu stopped smiling and raised his hand to stop him. I don't care what you mean. If you have any other intentions towards Xiao Luo, then, if you see Xiao Luo in the future, please take a detour. She didn't wait for Gu Jingyu's reply and walked straight ahead. After a few steps, she suddenly thought of something and glanced sideways. Her gaze congealed on Gu Jingyu's face. Today you've helped little Luo, let me thank you on her behalf. When little Luo's fiancé comes over, he will repay you. Miss Yi, her fiancé is coming to the northern continent? Gu Jingyu felt as though his throat was blocked by something. His heart was aching with pain and bitterness. Jun Qingwu gave a cold smile. Yes. After sending Gu Jingyu away, Jun Qingwu pulled Kitty Li and rushed to Yiqing Luo's room. Both of them had an interrogative look on their faces. Yiqing Luo sat on the chair, holding a peach for her to investigate the latest news regarding the Miao Stockade village. Seeing the two people's aggressive looks, Zhou Xian felt a chill run down his spine. Yiqing Luo put down the information and raised her hands in surrender. Heaven and earth can be my witness, I absolutely did not flirt with him. And I absolutely did not give him any chance. Jun Qingwu narrowed her eyes. Really? If you didn't give him a chance, would he chase you all the way to the Battle King's residence? I'm innocent. Yiqing Luo exaggerated her grievance. I told him clearly I'm a married woman. Following that, she spoke in a righteous tone. Moreover, which man in this world can be compared to my Zhou Xian? Am I blind or brain damaged to go flirt with other men? Jun Qingwu. Damn it, she was just interrogating someone and yet she was stuffed with dog food? Kitty Lee expressed that she was already used to it. Seeing Jun Qingwu's twitching lips, Yiqing Luo blinked and coquettishly hugged Jun Qingwu's arm. Xiao Wu, let's discuss something. Jun Qingwu squinted at her. Don't worry, I won't say anything. I knew it, little Wu Wu is my revolutionary comrade. Yiqing Luo beamed with joy and hugged Jun Qingwu's waist. Jun Qingwu put on a fake smile and said, I didn't say it because I didn't want to mess up Di Zun's plan because of you. Yiqing Luo didn't let go of her waist. When Zhou Xian returns, if Gu Jingyu still has any thoughts towards me, I'll bring Zhou Xian to show off our affection in front of him, to make him give up on this idea. The overlord is not as senseless as you. Jun Qingwu couldn't imagine the image of Zhou Xian and Yiqing Luo showing off their love everywhere. Yiqing Luo expressed that if it was picking peach blossoms, Zhou Xian, that vinegar jar would definitely cooperate. Regarding the matter regarding the Battle King's residence, it was indeed as Yiqing Luo had expected. It had only been 6 hours since the incident happened. The imperial family sent someone to the Battle King's mansion to question Yuan Kuang about the matter of him stealing the Battle King's medallion and forging a military order. It was only in the wee hours of the morning that he was insulted by a corpse hanging at his door. In the afternoon, the Battle King's mansion was sealed off by the imperial family's guards. The Battle King's family was also forcibly brought to the imperial palace. After all, this matter concerned the peace and safety of the northern continent. Forging a military order was a big deal. It was a big deal. No matter how illustrious the Battle King's battle achievements were. No matter how high the Battle King's status was. Chapter 2454. This was because the moment the Battle King showed any signs of resistance, in the eyes of the royal family, in the eyes of the major forces of the Northern Wave continent, the War King was rebelling. If they rebelled, it would definitely affect them. This also meant that if the Battle Monarch resisted, he would be offending all the powers in the Northern Wave continent. The War King knew that it was a tiger's den ahead. However, he could only lead the general's wife and Yuan Kuang to the palace for investigation. This news quickly spread to Yiqing Luo's ears. Qing Luo, if Battle King were to push everything onto Yuan Kuang, or perhaps Yuan Kuang and general's madam. It's not that Battle King can't make a comeback. After Peach relayed the information she had received, she said worriedly, after all, the Battle Monarch didn't gain power in the Northern Wave continent overnight. After Yiqing Luo heard this, she sneered disapprovingly. If the royal family really gave Battle King a chance to make a comeback, the Northern Continent's royal family would be a joke. The Battle King's mansion had always been a thorn in the side of the imperial family. Now the opportunity to get out of the eyesore was right in front of him. How could the people of the royal family give a thorn in their side a chance to turn things around? As for the Battle King's mansion, there was nothing worthy of her attention. The imperial family definitely won't give the Battle King a chance. At least during the Qingyue sect master's birthday celebration, the Battle King won't be able to cause any trouble. Peach nodded in agreement. He mentioned the Qingyue sect master's birthday banquet. Peach suddenly thought of something. That's right, Qing Luo, sect master Qingyu's birthday is coming soon. Do you want to go together? Go, of course I'll go. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. Looking at Yiqing Luo's smile, Peach shivered. What are you trying to do? That's the birthday banquet of the Qingyue sect leader. Yiqing Luo raised her finger and shook it, putting on an unfathomable look. The Miao tribe will definitely attend Qingyue sect's patriarch's birthday banquet. Miao Rongrong was poisoned because of me, so of course I have the obligation to see her. Peach expressed that she was not that naive and would never believe Yiqing Luo's nonsense. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Miao Rongrong took a bottle of antidote from her. According to Miao Rongrong's personality, she was afraid of death. It was probably not enough for her to last 10 days. Perhaps, in 7 days at most, the antidote would be consumed. Coincidentally, it was the day of the banquet. It was the last day Miao Rongrong needed the antidote. How could she not follow along to watch such an exciting show? I have quite a number of invitations here, let's go together. Peach didn't continue to ask what Yiqing Luo was going to do at the birthday banquet. Based on her understanding towards Yiqing Luo. Although Yiqing Luo's character was arrogant and unbridled. But she was very clear. Under what circumstances what could be done and what couldn't be done. At Qinyueshek's sovereign's birthday banquet, Yiqing Luo would definitely not do anything shocking. With this thought in mind, Peach bade farewell and left the room. Not long after, Peach realized how naive she had been. A few days passed by quickly. As the birthday celebration approached, the entire Joy City was enveloped in a joyous atmosphere. These few days Yiqing Luo had been cooped up in the Peach Blossom restaurant. Occasionally he would listen to the current situation of the Miao Stockade village from Peach. But most of the time, she would hole up in the secret room and run into the Azure Dew bracelet to cultivate. It had already been a very long time since she had cultivated within the Azure Dew bracelet. Nor did she climb the Purgatory Tower. Old Man Song had said this before. With her current strength. Chapter 2455. Yiqing Luo also planned to find some time to conquer the 3rd and 4th floor of the Purgatory Tower in one go and get the rewards for those 2 floors. At this moment Yiqing Luo was on the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. She had already spent a total of 3 days on the 3rd floor and she hadn't stopped to rest. This difficulty was many times higher than the 2nd floor of the Purgatory Tower. After spending so much time, it couldn't be said that the 3rd story was too difficult for Yiqing Luo. Instead it was the 3rd level which relied on overwhelming numbers. No matter how strong Yiqing Luo's speed and acute senses were, under attack from all sides, it was inevitable that it would be a little strenuous. If it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo's physique was good. In addition, he had the divine dragon furnace to refine elixirs that could replenish his elemental energy. 3 days of consumption. Yiqing Luo was still able to hold on. But as time went on, to Yiqing Luo it was getting more and more strenuous. After all, she was still a human. As for the Purgatory Tower, it was just an illusory thing. There would not be any life forms. It was until the 4th day when Yiqing Luo finally succeeded in clearing the stage as she fell onto the ground in exhaustion. The floor of the Purgatory Tower hadn't been cleaned yet. There were corpses and blood everywhere. It dyed Yiqing Luo's clothes red. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered. She just wanted to rest. However, she had just closed her eyes. Old Man Song's joyful voice entered her ears. "Little girl, congratulations on passing the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower." After some time he didn't hear any response from Yiqing Luo. Old Man Song's spirit body floated outside the Purgatory Pagoda. "Girl, what are you doing in there? Why isn't he out yet?" Yiqing Luo still didn't reply. Old Man Song's expression suddenly became serious. His spirit body quickly rushed into the Purgatory Pagoda. He saw the young girl lying in a pool of blood. The girl's entire body was battered and exhausted. Her entire body was dyed red with blood. Her eyes were closed and she was motionless. This scene shocked Old Man Song until his heart almost jumped out of his throat. He speedily flew to Yiqing Luo's side as his eyes were filled with worry. "Las Luo? Las Luo?" He wanted to carry Yiqing Luo. But the white fog-like hand was unable to touch Yiqing Luo. He was just a spiritual body. A spiritual body that could not embrace a human in its arms. Cauldron Dragon. Cauldron Dragon. Old Man Song clenched his fists and flew towards the direction of the divine dragon cauldron at lightning speed. "Do you have any elixirs in your cauldron that can heal internal injuries and replenish profound strength?" The patterns on the body of the cauldron moved slightly. 1 pill. It floated above the cauldron. The golden light caused the entire interior of the Azure Dew bracelet to be extremely bright. The pill slowly floated into Old Man Song's illusory palm. Old Man Song couldn't touch humans. But he could touch everything within the Azure Dew bracelet. Holding the pill, Old Man Song returned to the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. "Luo girl, I got a divine-grade medicinal pill from Cauldron Dragon. Eat it." Old Man Song spoke extremely quickly as he rushed to Yiqing Luo's side. But in the next instant, the girl who was lying in a pool of blood was now sitting on the ground. He rubbed his eyes with one hand. He covered his mouth with the other and yawned. Hearing Old Man Song's voice, the young girl tiredly blinked her eyes and looked at him. Old Man Song, what are you yelling about? I almost fell asleep and you woke me up. When I crawled up, you were gone. As she spoke, she let out another long yawn. Old Man Song. Chapter 2456. Old Man Song decisively turned and left. Yiqing Luo's nose twitched as she smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. Her eyes lit up as she quickly stood up from the ground. Old Man Song, what did you just say? Divine grade pill? The grades of elixirs that she had heard of were low grade, middle grade, and high grade. There was actually a divine grade. As an alchemist, Yiqing Luo was naturally very interested in pills. Old Man Song didn't even turn his head. Since you're not dead, don't waste Cauldron Dragon's pill. Old Man Song, don't. Yiqing Luo chased up and held onto his arm, acting coquettishly. I'll put it in the profound phoenix ring for backup. Absolutely won't waste it. Her holding, naturally, wasn't really holding onto his spiritual body. Old Man Song glanced sideways at her and snorted coldly. You didn't even tell me when you've finished. Do you really think I can be frightened just because I'm a spiritual body? Yiqing Luo obediently apologized and pacified him in various ways. Old Man Song was originally unhappy because he was frightened by Yiqing Luo. Very quickly, Yiqing Luo succeeded in pacifying him. Old Man Song looked at the exhausted girl and threw the pill into her hand. All right, get out and rest. I've been accompanying you outside for a few days. My spiritual body is about to collapse from exhaustion. She withdrew her divine sense from the azure dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes. The feeling of exhaustion instantly swept over her body. Even lifting her arm felt very strenuous. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes again. She was about to make up for her sleep and rest. But there was a knocking sound outside the door. Sister Luo, are you there? Yiqing Luo recognized the girl's crisp voice the moment she heard it. It was Miao Yi. She yawned, pressed the space between her eyebrows and sat up against the headboard. I'm here. Hearing the response, Miao Yi pushed the door open and quickly ran to Yiqing Luo's bedside. Sister Luo, something happened. Miao Yi's voice was somewhat trembling. Her eyes were also red like she had just cried. Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted slightly, her tiredness also dissipated a bit. What happened? I personally handed the letter you gave me to Grandma Bu. After Grandma Bu read it, she asked me to take her back to the Bu family village. As Miao Yi spoke, she began to sob softly. I thought that Grandma Bu was homesick, so I personally brought her to the Bu family village. But Granny Bu went to the Bu family village. After meeting with Grandpa Bu, the two of them stayed in the house and talked about something. Then Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu disappeared. He won't see you. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. They are both ordinary elderly people. How could they possibly disappear for no reason? I don't know. I searched the entire Bu family village, but I couldn't find Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. Miao Yi's tears rolled down her cheeks. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she pondered deeply for a moment. Miao Yi anxiously tugged Yiqing Luo's arm. Sister Luo, could Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu have been brought away by the Miao tribe? No. Yiqing Luo shook her head firmly. Third Elder Miao had already sworn an oath, so he would definitely not dare to violate it. He would absolutely not allow the Miao tribe to kidnap Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. Suddenly Yiqing Luo thought of something as she immediately lifted the blanket and jumped off the bed. Go to the Miao tribe. I'm afraid Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu have gone to the Miao tribe. Grandma Bu had originally brought her son and daughter-in-law along with her grandchildren to Qingyue City. Miao Yi only mentioned that Grandma Bu's grandchildren were beaten to death by Yuan Kuang. Then, son and daughter-in-law, why weren't they by Grandma Bu's side? When Grandma Bu returned to the Bu family village, she had a private conversation with Grandpa Bu. Chapter 2457. Miao tribe? Why? Didn't the Miao people take Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu away? Miao Yi sucked in a cold breath. Because Yiqing Luo said that it wasn't the Miao people who captured the Bu family's two elders. It was the Bu family's two elders who had gone to the Miao tribe. Both of them were ordinary people and they were already in their 50s. He went to the Miao tribe just like that. How could they leave the Miao tribe alive? Or perhaps, from the very beginning, the Bu family's two elders never planned to leave this place alive? Yiqing Luo's expression congealed slightly. If I didn't guess wrongly, Grandma Bu's son and daughter-in-law should have been killed by the Miao people. As for how Grandma Bu was able to escape the Miao people's pursuit and bring her grandson and granddaughter to Qingyue City, she must have known the truth behind her son and daughter-in-law's murder. Miao Yi's face paled. She stood up abruptly and staggered a little because of her hasty movements. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo dressed herself neatly and squinted her eyes at Miao Yi. Miao Yi's face was pale as she shook her head helplessly. No. I'm just worried about Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. I'll go to the Miao tribe first. Inform Peach to give Xiao Wu and Mao Mao a map of the Miao tribe. Yiqing Luo didn't wait for Miao Yi to continue as she had already walked out of the room. Miao Yi clenched her fists tightly as a trace of struggle flashed across her eyes. Then, as if he had made up his mind, he quickly rushed out of the room and headed for Peach's room. The most luxurious restaurant in the city was the Peach Blossom Restaurant. At this moment, there was a group of 5 people who were travel-worn. No matter where these 5 people went, they were the most eye-catching existences. 3 men and 2 women. Men all had their own styles. Even if one of them was an unprepossessing man, the aura he exuded was so unique. The women each had their own merits and they were all charming. Little Fool was trained by Peach, so he was very good at reading people's expressions. As soon as he saw the 5 of them, he stepped forward and smiled widely. "Sir, please come in, please come in." The 5 of them followed the waiter and found a good spot in the lobby. The location was not bad. It was just that it was too eye-catching. The waiter did know how to do business. The 5 of them sat in the restaurant. It would more or less attract a lot of guests. Perhaps the 5 of them had traveled through the night and were very tired, so they did not say much. As soon as they sat down, the charming woman said, "Waiter, quickly bring us a few pots of good tea and a table of your restaurant's best dishes." "All right, sir, I'll go right away." The waiter smiled, his eyebrows arched, and he quickly went to the back hall. Soon, other waiters brought up the bowls and chopsticks. At this time, it could be considered the peak period of the restaurant. The restaurant was filled with all sorts of people from the pugilistic world. It was also a channel for news to spread. Not to mention that it was the day when the Nirvana Realm's cultivators were rushing over to the Joy City to attend the sect leader's birthday banquet. The entire restaurant was extremely noisy. Just then he heard someone discussing the gossip of the past few days. "Speaking of that Lady Yi, she's a rare beauty that only appears once in 100 years. The person at the next table couldn't help but gasp in admiration. Chapter 2458. If you say that you don't know who that Lady Yi is in Qingyue City, then you'll have come for nothing. When the man saw that many people had gathered around his table, he stood up proudly and placed one of his legs on the stool. His spittle flew everywhere as he spoke. When that Lady Yi first came to Qingyue City, she had a conflict with the little overlord of Qingyue City, who is also the only son of Battle King General, young Prince Yuan Kuang. Not only did she humiliate the young prince in front of everyone, she even took the opportunity to poison him. And our young princess didn't manage to gain any advantage from Miss Yi. The young prince of Battle King General's family? That woman is so bold. Is that woman too confident, or is there something wrong with her brain? Countless listeners were astonished. They came from different continents. How could they not have heard about Battle King General? When they heard that someone dared to hurt the young prince in Qingyue City, Battle King's territory, they could not believe it. You might not believe me, but not long ago, Lady Yi fought with our North Continent's little Princess Lingling and East Continent's little Princess Lingling. When the man saw someone refuting him, he immediately said, "But they fought in Peach Blossom Restaurant." Peach Blossom Restaurant was almost demolished. As he spoke, he pointed at the few newcomers around him. "You've heard of the 2 little princesses, right? Those 2 little princesses can't be said to be particularly powerful, but they're still Xian cultivators. However, they were beaten by Miss Yi to the point of spitting blood in an instant." Beat up the princesses of 2 continents in front of everyone? Where did that woman come from? How could she still be alive after beating up the princesses? Such a fierce woman. Could she be extremely ugly? The man shook his head. Although her looks, she's not a top beauty, but her temperament is out of this world. Even if a fairy descended from the heavens, she won't be as outstanding as her. More and more people gathered around the table next to them. The 5 people sitting at the table next to them frowned slightly. Coincidentally, the waiter came forward and served the dishes. Seeing the liveliness at the table next to her, she hurriedly smiled and said, "Guests, please forgive us. That guest has great respect for Miss Yi and often tells stories here. If you don't like it, just pretend that he is telling stories and add to the atmosphere." The delicate lady propped her chin up with one hand and glanced at the man who kept bragging about Miss Yi. "The Miss Yi that he's talking about, who exactly is she?" "I don't know either, but it is indeed as the storyteller said, she is an extraordinary woman." The waiter smiled. They looked at each other. "Miss Yi, surnamed Yi?" On the first day he arrived at Qingyue City, he was already arguing with the young prince. He even fought with various princesses. The style. Why was it that the more he listened, the more it sounded like their family's Qing Luo? "Jinzi, do you think the person they are talking about, is it Qing Luo?" The delicate lady hugged the ordinary-looking man's arm. The man lowered his head, his eyes filled with gentleness. "From the way you do things, it does seem like it, but Qing Luo's looks have always been outstanding." "Qing Luo will change her looks." The girl in pink Lolita attire blinked her empty eyes and said word by word. Chapter 2459. The youngster got up and was about to walk towards the crowd. "Young master," a cold voice sounded. The man in black who was sitting beside the youngster looked at the youngster and said, "Don't cause trouble." "Ah Wu, I am such a gentle and elegant young master. Do I look like someone who will cause trouble?" The youngster in white raised his eyebrows and the smile on his lips became more and more demonic. The few people rolled their eyes at him. They tacitly looked away and ignored him. These 5 people, weren't they? Zhou Mo Gui Wu Qiao Jin Yen Xiao Yi and Mo Yu Ying had come all the way from the West Continent. Zhou Mo thought that there must be something wrong with these people's eyes. They couldn't see his gentleness and elegance. He patted his sleeves and walked over. The table next to him was obviously crowded. But for some reason, when Zhou Mo walked over, the crowded customers automatically made way for him. It was as if they were moved away by an invisible force. At that moment, the restaurant fell into silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on Zhou Mo. In their eyes flashed a trace of amazement and astonishment. Zhou Mo walked directly to the storyteller, raised his hand and gently knocked on the table. "Can you tell me the details of the Miss Yi you mentioned just now?" That person was frightened by Zhou Mo. His face turned pale and he stared at Zhou Mo in astonishment. Zhou Mo's smile became more gentle and modest. "Don't misunderstand. That Miss Yi is very likely to be our friend." That person moved his lips in fear. The youngster in front of him, who was as demonic as a fox, indeed looked like the same kind of person as Miss Yi. Then he looked at the table of the youngster. Although they all smiled very gently, however, he could still feel the powerful aura that these people exuded. That person was still hesitating whether he should tell them about Miss Yi or not. Zhou Mo had already taken out a bag of silver coins. "We just want to know about the specific things about Miss Yi." The bag of silver coins rattled. From the sound of it, there were at least a few hundred silver coins. That person's eyes lit up slightly. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Very quickly, the man recounted everything that had happened to Miss Yi recently. After receiving the silver pouch, he took out a silver coin and bit into it. The expression on that person's face became excited. "Oh yes, Miss Yi is quite familiar with the boss of this restaurant. Just now I saw the boss and Miss Ye's 2 companions rushing out. I vaguely heard them saying that they were going to the Miao tribe to save Miss Yi." "The Miao tribe?" Zhou Mo narrowed his eyes. "Save Miss Yi. I don't know what exactly happened, but if it's Miss Yi, even if it's the Miao, they can definitely escape unscathed." Before the man could finish speaking, he saw Zhou Mo turn around and return to his 4 companions. The few of them heard the Miao people and the word save. He didn't look tired at all. Yen Xiao Yi threw a bag of money into the waiter's hand. "Help us look after this table of good dishes. We'll continue when we come back." With that, the 5 of them rushed out of the restaurant. They had just arrived at the entrance of the restaurant. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind. "I know where the Miao Stockade Village is." Chapter 2460. Miao Stockade Village. Yi Qing Luo's figure swiftly traversed the roofs which were filled with exotic styles. Her sharp eyes scanned through everything below. The people in the Miao Stockade Village mainly used Miao Miao's venomous spells and weren't too concerned about the cultivation of profound energy. Because of this, no one detected Yi Qing Luo's presence. But even so, Yi Qing Luo was still extremely cautious and didn't dare to be careless. Old Man Song told her in her mind, there are various kinds of venomous worms around the Miao Stockade village. If you accidentally disturb those venomous worms, the venomous worms will give off an alarm, and by then, all the people in the Miao Stockade village will be alarmed. Yiqing Luo released her perception. Sensing the Miao Stockade village, that place with people was the noisiest. The surroundings were filled with venomous worms. She wondered if Elder T and Grandma Bu had disturbed the surrounding venomous worms when they came to the Miao Stockade village, and if they were hurt by them. Ordinary people like the two Bu elders. It was highly possible that they would be discovered by the guards the minute they got close to the Miao Stockade village. If that was the case, at least it could ensure that the two Bu elders would not be hurt by the venomous worms. The Miao people would not kill them before they figured out the reason why the two Bu elders ran over to the Miao Stockade village. She only hoped that she could make it in time. Third Elder, what do you mean? Those two intruders are from the Bu family village. Why can't we kill them? Suddenly an enraged voice sounded in his ears. Yiqing Luo was stunned when she heard the address, Third Elder. Her figure swiftly moved towards the direction of the voice. Nearing one of the stockade village, she saw two figures standing at the open door. One of them was the Third Elder Miao, whom she had met at the Bu family village. Opposite him was another middle-aged man, wearing the same patterned robe as Third Elder Miao. Apparently he was one of the Miao elders. Third Elder Miao's face sunk. Fifth Elder, if we kill those two Bu family members, will the traitor we are looking for appear? Since the traitor disappeared in the Bu family village, then the village is definitely related to the traitor. Rather than killing those two old fellows, why not keep them alive to lure the traitor out? Fifth Elder Miao didn't believe it at all. Ever since you came back from the Bu family village, you have been behaving strangely. Did the Bu family village give you some benefits? They're just a bunch of old and weak trash. What benefits can they give me? Third Elder Miao spat. I'm thinking of a way to retrieve the Miao tribe's ancient goo worm. What is it? Fifth Elder Miao furrowed his brows. I went to the Bu family village, killed them and robbed their things, but the people of the Bu family village refused to let go. That traitor also refused to appear. If the hard way didn't work, then I would use the soft way. Aren't those old fellows kind-hearted? I treat them so well and let them treat me as a hero who saves the world. If I want to know something, why won't they obediently tell me? Third Elder Miao glanced at Fifth Elder Miao disdainfully. Why don't you think of a better way? Fifth Elder Miao's mouth was wide open and he immediately shut it. All the words were stuck in his throat. You spared the lives of the villagers, is it really just because of this? Fifth Elder Miao looked at him suspiciously. Third Elder Miao said frankly, what else do you think? Without waiting for Fifth Elder Miao to reply, he impatiently continued. All right, I'll leave the Bu family village's matters to you in the future. I don't care about anything else. Chapter 2461. Don't. Third Elder Miao. Fifth Elder Miao panicked. He immediately caught up with Third Elder Miao and pulled him back. I'm overthinking. Just follow your plan to find the traitor. I won't ask any more questions. Third Elder Miao snorted and shook off his hand. Although he still looked angry, but at least he had no intention of leaving. Fifth Elder Miao heaved a sigh of relief. Going to the Bu family village to find the traitor. Whoever accepted it would be unlucky. Who knew where the traitor had gone? Every time the patriarch asked about this matter, he realized that there was no progress in the matter. Third Elder Miao would always be the one to suffer. He must have been kicked in the head by a donkey to be in charge of the Bu family village. Seeing that Third Elder Miao had no intention of letting go of the matter, Fifth Elder Miao was worried that Third Elder Miao would take the opportunity to push the blame onto him. He hurriedly left the village. Third Elder Miao stood where he was and remained silent for a long time. Until Fifth Elder Miao's aura completely disappeared. Third Elder Miao placed his hand on his chest and gasped for breath. His feigned seriousness and earnestness collapsed in an instant. He took a deep breath and walked into the village. If this happens a few more times, I won't be able to hold it in. Third Elder Miao closed the door of the village and turned around. When his gaze landed on the red-robed figure that had appeared behind him at some point in time, he was completely stupefied. The girl's face was beautiful, and the corners of her mouth were curled up in an extremely faint smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, as if they were embellished with luminous pearls. They were extremely bright. It was a beautiful picture that could make people sink into it. However, this caused an expression of fear to appear on Third Elder Miao's face. He staggered back a few steps. His body hit the door that had just been closed, making a loud sound. This sound brought Third Elder Miao back to his senses. His hands immediately trembled as he quickly fiddled with the door lock, trying to escape. Behind him, the girl smiled faintly. She had no intention of stopping him. "Well, go out and call all the people of the Miao tribe here. I will personally tell everyone that you, Third Elder Miao, are now my people." "You?" Third Elder Miao's hand paused. He quickly turned around and pressed his back against the door. "You're talking nonsense. This elder. How could this elder possibly be one of your people? If you protect the Bu family village for me, doesn't that mean you're one of my people?" Yiqing Luo's body slumped against the back of the chair as she squinted her eyes lazily. Earlier, wasn't Third Elder Miao painstakingly fabricating a story to protect old T and Grandma Bu's lives? Third Elder Miao's face turned pale and he clenched his fists. "You forced me to..." He used the most insidious method of the Miao tribe to swear a poisonous oath. If he didn't protect the people of the Bu family village, he would die a more painful and unsightly death than the people of the Bu family. All of this was because of that bitch. The minute Third Elder Miao recalled that he was duped by Yiqing Luo, agreeing to her various unreasonable requests, his heart surged with endless anger. "Cheap hussy. That day you actually dared to play tricks on this elder. How dare you appear in front of this elder? This elder is going to kill you." Yiqing Luo was still smiling as she remained unmoved. "Where are old T and Grandma Bu locked up? Bring me there." Chapter 2462. The smile in Yiqing Luo's eyes gradually turned cold. "I said bring me over." Her pink lips moved slightly. Word by word he spat out each and every word extremely clearly. Third Elder Miao's fury was extinguished by Yiqing Luo's cold qi. A chill ran down his spine and his body trembled uncontrollably. You, Third Elder Miao spoke. Even his voice was trembling. His calves were shaking. In Third Elder Miao's heart, the fear and intense uneasiness towards Yiqing Luo became more and more obvious. He really could not understand. How could this girl have such a powerful aura? Perhaps it was the patriarch who was standing here. They all had to lower their heads before this young lady's powerful aura. "Luo, haven't you had enough of toying with me?" Third Elder Miao clutched his head as he was on the verge of breaking down. "I've already told you everything I know and I've done everything you asked of me. Now that we've arrived at the Miao Stockade village, are you still unwilling to let me go?" At this moment, Third Elder Miao looked like he had aged more than 10 years. Yiqing Luo looked at Third Elder Miao, who was playing the pitiful card, as she expressed that her heart wasn't affected at all. "Who said I'm playing with you? Are you not playing with me? I almost collapsed in the toilet that day," Third Elder Miao said while gnashing his teeth. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her gaze swept across him. "You'll believe whatever I say?" What do you mean?" Third Elder Miao's face paled. "These few days have you been having trouble sleeping at night, sweating profusely, especially at night, sometimes cold, sometimes hot?" Yiqing Luo asked with a smile. Third Elder Miao's face turned even paler. "What do you mean?" "What I mean is..." Yiqing Luo stood up slowly, her actions were elegant and dignified. "I am not playing with you." Third Elder Miao was so shocked that he sat on the ground. The chill on his back had already been covered by cold sweat. His whole body was trembling. The muscles on his face kept twitching. His mouth twitched so much that he couldn't even speak clearly. "You not fooling around with him?" In other words, that day she had indeed poisoned him. The so-called diarrhea was just to make him lower his guard. F***ck. You might as well be toying with him. Third Elder Miao's heart was in a mess because of Yiqing Luo, and he really didn't know if he should believe Yiqing Luo this time round. However, he cherished his life. Even if he knew that there was a possibility that this was Yiqing Luo purposely making use of the poisoning incident that day, to tease him again. However, it could also be true. He was not willing to bet his life on this possibility. "Yao. Will Third Elder Miao bring me over to Elder T?" Yiqing Luo saw Third Elder Miao's expression, hence she asked him smilingly. Third Elder Miao's face twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, "Yes." Yiqing Luo nodded in satisfaction. "Good boy, after I bring Elder T and Grandma Bu out safely, I will give you the antidote." A cold glint flashed across Third Elder Miao's eyes. "You won't lie to me? Then do you believe it?" Yiqing Luo asked with a smile. Third Elder Miao clenched his fists tightly. Now he had no choice but to believe it. He could only choose to believe. Change into the Miao female attendant's attire. I will bring you over. Third Elder Miao said as he tensed his body and walked towards the inner hall of the village. Very quickly he took out a set of clean female attendant attire. New. In order to move more conveniently, Yiqing Luo didn't put on airs. Chapter 2463. Yiqing Luo disguised herself as a maid and followed behind Third Elder Miao towards their destination. The Miao village's terrain was extremely complicated. And near each of the more important villages, there would be traps set up. What's more, the surroundings of each place was a nest of goo worms. Yiqing Luo indicated that she was considered lucky that she didn't get infected after wandering around the Miao village for so long. Turning left and right as Yiqing Luo walked, she overlapped the surrounding terrain with the map provided by Peach in her mind. After a while, Third Elder Miao stopped in front of an extremely solemn and strange huge village. That huge village was about the size of a courtyard. It was filled with a foreign style. There were 2 strong guards standing at the entrance. Third Elder Miao. Did they confess? Third Elder Miao's voice was calm as he asked coldly. Oh. The guard replied. The patriarch came but left very quickly. He asked me to pass a message to Third Elder Miao to investigate the matter of the traitor. It's the last 3 days. If we are unable to get the whereabouts of the traitor from the 2 Boo villagers, we will slaughter you and the entire Boo village. The guard's voice was very flat without any extra emotions. Third Elder Miao's expression stiffened as his brows furrowed into a ball. The patriarch personally gave the order? The guard looked straight forward. Yes. I understand. Third Elder Miao snorted coldly as he threw the pendant on his waist fiercely and strode into the village. Yiqing Luo immediately followed. She was dressed in a maid's attire and the guard thought she was Third Elder Miao's maid, so he didn't stop her. The 2 of them stepped into the village. The village was extremely quiet. There was a thick atmosphere of terror. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she lifted her eyes and looked around. The surrounding environment. The village was huge and spacious. But there were only a few luminous pearls which illuminated a few corners. No matter how bright the luminous pearls were, it couldn't overcome the spaciousness of the village. Because of that, the village was very dark. Yiqing Luo could vaguely see the strange and terrifying totem on the 2 sides of the wall. The reason why it was too dark. Yiqing Luo couldn't see it clearly. She could vaguely see a pair of green bell-like eyes glaring at her fiercely. Her heart trembled. The profound jade heart in his chest inexplicably surged with a feeling of being burned by raging flames. What was going on? Ever since he carried the heart-calming bead with him, her profound jade heart had never experienced this sort of abnormal activity before. Yiqing Luo wanted to suppress this feeling. However, that scorching heat burned even more fiercely. As though it wanted to burn Yiqing Luo entirely into ashes. Oh! Yiqing Luo couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Third Elder Miao, who was in front, sensed something amiss with Yiqing Luo and immediately turned his head back. He saw Yiqing Luo holding on to her chest, her face pale and on the verge of collapsing. You. Third Elder Miao's expression froze. Hey, are you alright? This was the Hmong Stockade village. The patriarch's spiritual energy is connected to this place. Don't cause trouble. Yiqing Luo shook her head as her breathing quickened. The fire was still burning in his heart. Third Elder Miao sensed that something wasn't right with Yiqing Luo and walked over in an attempt to support her. When his palm touched Yiqing Luo's shoulder, a scorching pain assaulted the center of his palm. Third Elder Miao was so shocked that he immediately loosened his hand. Raising his hand, his palm was flushed red as though he had been scalded. Chapter 2464. The scorching heat was still persisting. As though there was magma in her heart, crashing against it non-stop. Her eyes started to blur. Her petite body swayed slightly. Relying on her willpower, she tried her best to raise her eyes. The wall? The totem on the wall, what is it? When she lifted her eyes, Yiqing Luo's eyes were completely fixed on that wall. She could see it clearly. That pair of jade-green eyes on the wall sparkled with a treacherous glint. She could even see clearly that pair of jade-green eyes winking at her. Following that, she saw the surrounding scene became clearer and clearer. A big bloody mouth as though it was sticking out, a scarlet tongue as though it was roaring. Yiqing Luo even seemed to hear the roar of a wild beast. That was... What kind of wild beast's roar? Why did it sound extremely familiar? But she couldn't figure out what kind of wild beast's roar was it. Yiqing Luo's mind was in a mess. That scorching feeling in her chest slowly surged up to her eyes. The totem on the wall became clearer and clearer. Yi Luo. Suddenly she heard Third Elder Miao's terrified roar. His hand once again tugged on her wrist. Even though he was being scorched, he still didn't let go. Even though Yiqing Luo's mind was no longer clear. But she could still feel it clearly. Third Elder Miao's fear and anxiety. He pulled her, speedily sprinting towards a direction. The speed was so fast as though there was some dreadful beast chasing behind. At the instance when she was pulled by Third Elder Miao, that scene in front of Yiqing Luo instantly dissipated. Her body staggered. Perhaps it was because of the scorching heat from the profound jade heart, which made Yiqing Luo's physical strength unable to take it. She was easily pulled by Third Elder Miao to an even darker corner. At the instance when Yiqing Luo was forcefully pulled away, her peripheral vision once again shot towards that wall. Whatever bloody mouth, whatever wild beast's roar, it seemed as though it had never happened. Only those two. His eyes, which were glowing with a faint green light, met her gaze without blinking for a moment. At the corner, Third Elder Miao stopped in his tracks as he released Yiqing Luo's hand and panted heavily. Yi Luo, what's the matter with you? Do you know that just now you were almost discovered by the patriarch? He raised his hand in pain. Are you possessed by the devil? Why is my body so hot? Even my hands are getting burnt. As he spoke, he spread out his hands. But when he looked at his wrinkled hands, there wasn't a single trace of being burned by the raging fire. Third Elder Miao widened his eyes and looked at his hands in disbelief. Just now, he clearly felt that a layer of his skin was about to be scalded off. How could nothing have happened to him? However, no matter how Third Elder Miao rubbed his palms, that burning sensation made him feel like he was dreaming. Both of his hands were intact, without any scars. Yiqing Luo leaned against the wall, feeling weak all over. She stared fixedly at Third Elder Miao, who was rubbing his palms continuously. Her breathing was slightly ragged. It wasn't just Third Elder Miao's hand that was fine. Her profound jade heart also seemed to have returned to normal. The feeling of being burned by raging flames. As though it had been extinguished in an instant. What on earth was going on? Chapter 2465. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Just now, did you talk to me? It should be the totem on the wall that caused your profound heart jade to react. Old Man Song guessed. Soon after, he said thoughtfully, looks like the Miao Stockade village is still hiding many secrets. Yiqing Luo recalled the scene on the wall earlier. The eyes of the beast. The cry of the beast. Inexplicably, he felt a sense of familiarity. Why did I have such a huge reaction, so much so that even your consciousness had no way to connect to mine? Yiqing Luo thought about it and felt that the totem was too strange. Her connection with Old Man Song. It depended on the spiritual energy and consciousness of both parties. Old Man Song mused for a moment and shook his head with some uncertainty. This old man is also not too sure. You only saw that pair of eyes, and this old man also only saw that pair of eyes. Before seeing the complete totem, this old man is also unable to determine just what exactly is the cause of your abnormality. Pausing, Old Man Song's voice deepened a bit. The only thing this old man can be certain of is that totem possesses an extremely formidable power that transcends the balance of the Nirvana realm. For you, it's still too much of a stretch. No wonder Old Man Song said that there were many secrets hidden in the Miao Stockade village. She and Old Man Song had not seen the totem completely, so no matter how much they guessed, it was useless. It would be better to directly ask Third Elder Miao, who was in the know. As she thought about this, she retracted her divine sense and looked at the person in front of her. Third Elder Miao, that totem. Before he could finish, Third Elder Miao's expression suddenly changed. He speedily stretched out his hand, trying to cover Yiqing Luo's mouth. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she moved backwards to evade. Yi Luo, that is the taboo of the Miao tribe. Don't mention it again. Third Elder Miao spoke with a solemn expression. His brows were filled with anxiety and unease. Totem? Taboo? I forgot to remind you just now. Don't look around when you enter the Miao Stockade cave, especially the things on the walls. Don't look at them with your eyes, the third elder of the Miao Stockade cave continued. His voice was filled with urgency. You seem to have lost your soul and wanted to touch that wall. Once you touch that wall, the chief will immediately know that you are in the Miao Stockade village. At that time, not only will you not be able to save the 2 old men from the Bu family village, but you'll also have to hand yourself over here. Miao Village Cave, Yiqing Luo murmured this name. Why can't I mention that picture? She had just spat out a word when she was stopped by Third Elder Miao's gaze. Third Elder Miao's face was pale. He was almost unable to catch his breath. It was obvious that he had been given quite a fright. That is our Miao tribe's taboo. Not only are you not allowed to see or touch it, you can't even mention it. Third Elder Miao's solemn look made Yiqing Luo unable to continue asking. Taboo of the Miao tribe. It was a taboo that Third Elder Miao was so afraid of. Even if she forced Third Elder Miao to answer, he was afraid that Third Elder Miao would not reveal anything. Do you still want to save the 2 old guys in the Bu family village? Third Elder Miao saw Yiqing Luo not replying and his face revealed an impatient expression. The longer we drag, the easier it is for the chief to find out. I don't want to be treated as the Miao tribe's traitor. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and kept the thoughts in her mind as she nodded. Let's go. Chapter 2466. This time, Yiqing Luo didn't attempt to use her mental power to explore the totem on the wall. That pair of jade green eyes. Now that she recalled it, she felt a chill running down her spine. After walking for about a cup of tea's time, in the quiet village, a calm and indifferent voice was heard. Who are you? Third Elder. Third Elder Miao replied. A ray of light struck, instantly lighting up the pitch-black surroundings. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked over. She saw a door in front of her opened. There were 2 guards standing at the door. As compared to the guards she saw outside the Miao village, their abilities were obviously stronger. Third Elder Miao took a step forward. Yiqing Luo immediately followed. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, stepped into that door. With a bam, the door was shut. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened slightly as she glanced at Third Elder Miao's back view with an inexplicable ominous premonition. But at the next moment she heard Third Elder Miao's impatient voice. The 2 old fellows from the Bu village are there. Yiqing Luo's thoughts were interrupted. She looked towards the direction which Third Elder Miao was pointing at. Here, it was a place similar to a prison cell. There were prison cells all around. Each prison cell was separated by iron bars. And at the end of the prison cell, on 2 wooden stakes, hung Elder T and Grandma Bu. They were covered in blood as they hung on the wooden stakes as though they had fainted. Yiqing Luo's brows creased. She didn't lose her rationality and disregard everything. Instead, she first released her perception to ascertain that there was no one else's presence in this underground prison. Then she quickly walked past Third Elder Miao and dashed towards Elder T and Grandma Bu. The 4 limbs of the Bu family's 2 elders were tied with iron chains. Their faces were devoid of any color. Their hair was messy and they looked extremely disheveled. Seeing Elder T in front of her, Yiqing Luo recalled a few days ago when they were in the Bu village. Elder T was still so gentle, smiling at her benevolently. But now, it had become like this. She clenched her fists and quickly took out 2 healing and replenishing elixirs from the profound phoenix ring. She approached the wooden stake and carefully fed it to the 2 elders. The medicinal pills which Yiqing Luo refined naturally had an extremely fast effect. After a while, the 2 Bu family elders gradually woke up and opened their eyes. Elder T was still in a trance. It took him a while to see the person in front of him clearly. His eyes widened in astonishment and his voice was hoarse and harsh. How could you, young lady? Granny Bu had already woken up by now, and when she saw Yiqing Luo's face, she went into a blank. As soon as they moved, the chains on his body made a clanking sound. They then remembered that they were tied up in the dungeon by the Miao people. Little girl, what are you doing here? Elder T's face turned pale. This is the Miao tribe, little girl. I'll get you out of here. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and her fingertips knocked on the metal chains. Where else are you injured? Can you still walk? Little girl, do you know what you are doing? This is the Miao tribe. How could you come here? The Miao tribe will not let you off. When Elder T heard that, his eyes turned red as he choked with sobs. What ability do I have to trouble little girl to save me time and time again? Quickly leave before the Miao tribe people discover you. Quickly leave this place. Chapter 2467. Elder T's tears streamed down his face. Grandma Bu also cried out, "Young lady, hurry and leave. This is our own choice. We were too rash. We can't harm you." As she spoke, she choked with sobs. Her body was weak due to the torture she had suffered earlier. That iron chain was hanging Grandma Bu's hands tightly. She was in so much pain that her entire face was wrinkled, but she was afraid that Yiqing Luo would be worried, so she didn't make a sound. "Young lady, you are still young. Don't bury your future here. Don't lose your life because of us two old fellows. Yi is a good lady. She won't blame you." "Grandma Bu, don't talk anymore. Conserve your energy." Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, comforting her. She walked to Grandma Bu's side and used one hand to support her, lending strength to Grandma Bu to ease the pain from the iron chain. "Young lady." Elder T choked with sobs as he tried to persuade. "Let me untie the iron chain for you first." Yiqing Luo interrupted Elder T's voice. He had just tested the hardness of the iron chain. It was just an ordinary iron chain. It was rather easy to break these iron chains. "Close your eyes, don't be afraid." Yiqing Luo smiled gently. Her voice exuded a reassuring and convincing power. The two Bu elders wanted to say something, but after meeting Yiqing Luo's resolute gaze, they still chose to close their eyes. Back in the Bu family village, Elder T knew that once this young lady decided on something, no one could change her mind. If they didn't want to be a burden to her, then they could only try their best to cooperate with her and try their best not to be a burden to her. Yiqing Luo took a few steps back. Her eyes gradually turned sharp. Her fingers moved. A fiery red feather fan appeared in her palm. Profound energy was injected into the fan, and at this moment, a bewitching red glow appeared, burning brightly. Kacha. A few crisp sounds were heard as the iron chains were cut off and fell onto the ground. The two Bu elders' bodies immediately sank. Yiqing Luo supported them with each hand, letting them lean against the wooden pillar, sitting down to rest. After rescuing the two Bu elders from the iron chain, Yiqing Luo's gaze turned towards the surroundings, surveying the surroundings. "I'll bring you out of the Miao tribe first. We'll talk about the rest after we get out." As soon as she finished speaking, his gaze was fixed on a certain spot. His expression changed drastically. "Third Elder Miao, how dare you scheme against me?" Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as a pair of sharp charming eyes, like a sharp icicle, pierced directly towards Third Elder Miao, as she spat out a sentence while clenching her teeth. Her reaction could be considered very fast. The moment he sensed that something was wrong, he immediately bent down and hugged the two Bu family's elders. Then with a single step he flew towards Third Elder Miao. However, just at the moment when Yiqing Luo leapt up, a loud bang shook the entire Hmong stockade village 3 times. Dong, then a huge iron cage came crashing down. If Yiqing Luo was alone, escaping from this iron cage was definitely not a problem. But, in Yiqing Luo's hands, there were 2 old men who were obviously exhausted. The moment the iron cage came crashing down, Yiqing Luo knew that her discovery was too late. She decisively gave up on the idea of escaping with the Bu family's 2 elders. Just at the moment when the iron cage came crashing down on their heads, she had already brought the 2 Bu elders back to the side of the wooden pillar. Chapter 2468. The iron cage that flickered with a cold light trapped the 3 of them inside. Young lady. The 2 Bu family elders were so shocked by the sudden turn of events that they couldn't recover from their shock. They stared blankly at the iron cage and stammered, "This? What is going on? Why is there an iron cage?" Grandma Bu's eyes widened in astonishment. She looked at the iron cage. Then she looked at Yiqing Luo's gloomy expression. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Young lady, we've let you down. We've caused you to be trapped in the Miao tribe. It's all right." Yiqing Luo turned back to look at the 2 Bu elders and the expression on her face became gentler. "Just treat it as me asking you to rest more. After you've rested enough and recovered your energy, we'll leave." Ah! A sudden ear-piercing laughter was heard from outside the iron cage. Third Elder Miao placed both his hands behind his back, totally different from the yes man in front of Yiqing Luo earlier. Trapped in the Miao Stockade cave and you still want to leave? Ah. Seeing that you're so ignorant, this elder shall be merciful and tell you. The Miao Stockade cave is not a place where you outsiders can come and go as you please. Third Elder Miao walked slowly to the iron cage with a complacent smile on his face. When the two Bu elders heard that, their bodies trembled violently as their faces were filled with guilt. Yiqing Luo didn't even raise her head as she half-squatted in front of the two Bu elders and took their pulse while sneering. Third Elder Miao, don't be too confident. If I want to leave, can you stop me? Third Elder Miao couldn't help but burst out laughing. Why don't you leave for this elder to see? As long as I hand you over to the clan leader, this elder will definitely be able to get rid of the mess in the Bu family village and obtain a respectable status. As though he was thinking of his future. Third Elder Miao's laughter became increasingly carefree and complacent. Yiqing Luo turned a deaf ear to it. There wasn't a single trace of panic on her face. Only between his brows, there was a hint of coldness. After confirming that the two Bu elders had not suffered any serious injuries, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief and fed both of them another elemental energy pill as she comforted them warmly. Grandpa Bu, Grandma Bu, rest here and recover your energy. In a while I'll bring you out. Young lady. Granny Bu held Yiqing Luo's hand tightly. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Don't worry. After she finished speaking, she slowly stood up and faced Third Elder Miao. In that instant, the expression on her face became extremely domineering. From head to toe, he released an aura that looked down on everything. Third Elder Miao's maniacal laughter was abruptly stopped by Yiqing Luo's imposing manner. Yiqing Luo's eyes were calm as she fixed her gaze on him. Her pink lips curled upwards as she spoke in a chilly voice. Third Elder Miao's current fantasy, whether he has the life to fulfill it or not, is still a question. Third Elder Miao's face turned pale, but his expression quickly returned to normal. He coldly snorted in a rather pleased manner. You still want to use the matter of me being poisoned to deceive me? Do you really think this elder is a fool? Let you tease me again and again? Towards Yiqing Luo. Third Elder Miao was filled with disgust and hatred from the bottom of his heart. It was Yiqing Luo who made him lose his face in front of his subordinates. It was Yiqing Luo who teased him time and time again, trampling on his pride. That cheap hussy who was full of lies. He didn't believe that there was any poison in his body or such nonsense. Chapter 2469. Yiqing Luo laughed lowly. She raised her eyes curved, narrow and charming. Whether I am deceiving you or not, you know it in your heart. Pausing for a moment, Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed the glower flame fan against her pink lips as she continued. Actually, from the start I really felt that you were rather silly, but now you're not that silly. At least he knew how to take advantage of her confidence and scheme against her. He had been tricked. Yiqing Luo wasn't particularly angry. She had indeed underestimated Third Elder Miao, believing that Third Elder Miao cherished his life. But he had overlooked it. The third elder of the Miao clan had been fooled by her in the Bu family village. He no longer believed her. Third Elder Miao's face turned slightly pale. He clenched his fists tightly and stared sharply at the young girl in the cage who was smiling calmly. In his heart there was a faint feeling of unease. Luo was too calm. Especially when those eyes, which seemed to be able to see through the soul, looked at him with a faint smile. He felt a sharp pain in his stomach. Every night the feeling of sweating, sometimes cold, sometimes hot, seemed to attack his heart. Yi Luo had fed him that day in the Bu family village. Was it really poison? No, impossible. The Miao tribe's doctor has already checked on me. There is no poison in my body. This elder is not poisoned. Not knowing if it was to convince himself or to convince Yiqing Luo, Third Elder Miao practically roared out this sentence. That's right. He wasn't poisoned. Dr. Miao did not find any toxins in his body. It must be this bitch who wanted to trick him and make him fall for it. Puchi, an unsuppressible chuckle escaped from Yiqing Luo's mouth. She smiled and said, Then, did Miao Yi find any clues about the poison in Miss Miao's body? Third Elder Miao opened his eyes wide, his countenance turned pale as he staggered several steps back. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. Then, during that crazy period of time, was there any doctor who found any clues? It seems like even Miss Miao couldn't detect the poison in Little Prince's body with her goo worm. Third Elder Miao's body suddenly swayed. His legs began to wobble. His breathing also became a little hurried. He staggered backward. He muttered softly, "Impossible. Bible. You're just scaring me. You're definitely playing with me." However, even if he brainwashed himself repeatedly, the expression on Third Elder Miao's face grew more and more frightened and panicked. "Yiluo. Yiluo." He suddenly cried out Yiqing Luo's name in panic and helplessness as his eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo crazily. "This elder will let you out now. You give this elder the antidote." Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she fanned herself with a languid look. "But I don't feel like going out now." Then she walked over to the Bu family's 2 elders and sat down. "The environment here is not bad. I will stay here for a while." Yiluo. Third Elder Miao's face turned pale. He was flustered and anxious. The Miao Stockade Village's cave is the most taboo place in the Miao tribe. I'll let you out now and send you away from the Miao tribe. Give me the antidote. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out. Third Elder Miao really cherished his life. But did he really think that after this iron cage was put down she could still leave easily? The Miao tribe's people were not fools. She already had no chance to leave quietly. Chapter 2470. Third Elder, I heard that you've already caught the person who trespassed into Miao tribe? A deep voice was heard coming from the entrance of the dungeon. Immediately following that, a middle-aged man walked over. That man's imposing manner was unleashed, carrying a trace of sharpness. When that man walked nearer to Third Elder Miao, Third Elder Miao's face turned as white as a piece of white paper. His entire body started to tremble violently. He plopped onto the ground as he stammered, "Patriarch, Patriarch." The person who came was the Miao tribe's patriarch, Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong was all smiles. Third Elder need not be so courteous. Third Elder Miao stood up apprehensively. He paid attention to Miao Yixiong's expression as he tried his best to calm his emotions. Looking at the patriarch's expression, he probably hadn't heard what he said about releasing Yi Luo. He couldn't afford to be flustered. Today the patriarch had already seen Yi Luo locked up in the Miao tribe's dungeon. He had no other choice. No matter if he was poisoned by Yiqing Luo, he had to stand on the Miao tribe's side. "Patriarch, this is the person who trespassed into Miao tribe, trying to save the 2 old fellows in the Bu family village." After he had made up his mind, Third Elder Miao decisively pointed at Yiqing Luo. Miao Yixiong narrowed his eyes. He placed his hands behind his back as he walked nearer to the iron cage. When his gaze met the young lady's face, his expression suddenly congealed. "Yi Luo?" Yiqing Luo lazily raised her eyelids as she squinted at Miao Yixiong, smiling as she spoke. "Miao tribe leader, long time no see." "Not long. Not long." These words were said with clenched teeth as though he was suppressing his anger. Third Elder Miao saw that the atmosphere between the 2 of them was not right, and realized that there was a grudge between the patriarch and Yi Luo? And it wasn't a small grudge? Third Elder Miao stood on the patriarch's side even more firmly. "Patriarch, the last time I lost in the Bu family village, it was because she blocked and protected the village. This time, she ran over to the Miao tribe to save these 2 people. This person must have a close relationship with the Bu family village, and there's a possibility that traitor's disappearance is related to her." "No, we don't know anything about traitors. This is only the 2nd time we've met this young lady. She was just being kind. She just couldn't bear to see us 2 old people get hurt. Let her go, let her go." Granny Bu struggled to stand up. Her wrinkled face was filled with tears. "I've kowtowed to you. I'll answer whatever you want to ask. Let this little girl go." Then Granny Bu's tottering body propped itself up, wanting to kneel. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped her. "He won't dare to do anything to us. You stay here and rest well." "Heh." Miao Yixiong sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. "Young lady, you sure talk big." "Of course." Yiqing Luo gently patted Grandma Bu's back, comforting her as she gave a faint smile. "Your daughter's life is now in my hands. If you don't want your daughter to live on, then just go ahead and do it." Grandma Bu's expression changed. Miao Yixiong was so angry that his eyes were filled with rage. "Yi Luo, what did you do to Rongrong? How could he not want Miao Rongrong to live?" Miao Rongrong was his only hope now. She was the only candidate to be the Miao tribe's sacred maiden. But ever since Miao Rongrong escaped from the Battle King's residence, Miao Rongrong's body was getting weaker and weaker. Even if it was those antidotes that Miao Rongrong brought back. Chapter 2471. Yiqing Luo didn't even lift her eyelids. Speaking of eldest young Miss Miao. Miao Patriarch, the bottle of medicinal pills that eldest young Miss Miao snatched from me was something that I spent an entire month to refine, spending a huge amount of money to gather all the medicinal herbs. She paused as her lips curled into a mocking smile. I should settle this score with the Miao Patriarch. You poisoned Rongrong and still dare to ask me to settle this score for you? Miao Yixiong laughed in anger. Young lady, this is the Miao tribe and you're so arrogant in my territory. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to leave this place alive? Yiqing Luo finally raised her head. Her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as she shrugged her shoulders indifferently. It doesn't matter if I can leave the Miao tribe alive, but whether eldest Miss Miao can stay alive. Luo. Miao Yixiong's imposing manner exploded, fierce and sharp, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. His 5 fingers moved. A burst of dense, profound energy burst forth from his palm. Yiqing Luo felt the ground shaking. Behind her, the 2 Bu elders' panicked cries could be heard. Yiqing Luo turned around and saw the wooden stake that the 2 Bu elders were sitting on suddenly rose up slowly. Sharp arrows flew out from all directions of the iron cage, heading straight for the 2 old men on the wooden stakes. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold. Her feet tapped lightly and her body leaped up agilely. The glower flame fan in her hand suddenly opened up and slashed out a burst of dense, profound qi. Bam! The whirlwind created by the Xian qi knocked away all the sharp arrows. Yiqing Luo's other hand immediately pulled the 2 Bu elders down from the wooden stake. Immediately the 3 of them landed steadily on the ground. Looking at the 2 old men who were still in a state of shock. Yiqing Luo's face revealed a trace of anger. Her eyes were cold as her lips curled into a cold arc. Miao Patriarch. You will pay the price for what you did earlier. Miao Yixiong totally disregarded Yiqing Luo's words. His gaze was sinister and malicious. Just based on the fact that you're trapped in my iron cage with 2 burdens, you want me to pay the price? Really? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a devilish smile. At the same time he spat out these 2 words lightly. A gush of horrifying power encircled Yiqing Luo's surroundings, enveloping that young lady dressed in a long red dress, who was like a raging flame tightly. The entire dungeon shook violently, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to sway. He could vaguely hear the sound of something falling to the ground. The smile on Miao Yixiong's face gradually froze. Yiqing Luo let go of the 2 Bu elders and lowered her voice. Stand further away, we will be able to leave soon. Yiqing Luo intentionally set up a simple enchantment around the 2 Bu family elders. This was formed from her spiritual power. Naturally, the profound energy she released would not have any effect on the barrier. What do you want to do? Miao Yixiong sensed that something was wrong. This power was so strong that it made him feel somewhat oppressed. Of course it's to make you pay the price. Yiqing Luo's red lips were alluring as she spat out one sentence at a time. His voice fell. Yiqing Luo leaped up. Dense dark force surged rapidly. Suddenly, like an exploding whirlpool, it landed on top of the iron cage. Bam, 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 bam. A series of collisions and the sound of things falling to the ground were heard. That iron cage which had trapped Yiqing Luo and the other 2 inside. Under Yiqing Luo's profound qi attack, it collapsed with a loud bang. Miao Yixiong was jolted back a few steps. Chapter 2472. The ground was filled with dust and the iron bars were sent flying. Yiqing Luo lightly clapped her hands as her long and narrow eyes rose into a faint but cold arc. Now Miao clan leader, how else do you think you can trap me? Miao Yixiong's malicious eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. His hands clenched into fists as his profound qi revolved around his body. Yiqing Luo's action of shattering the iron cage really gave him a huge shock. Although he knew in his heart that Yiqing Luo's ability was very strong. But he had never thought that Yiqing Luo's ability was actually above his. This young lady, was she really like what she looked like on the surface, just a 15-year-old young lady? What was her identity? Why did she go against the Miao clan time and time again? Miao Yixiong's gaze turned increasingly cold. In my Miao clan's territory you think I can't trap you? He laughed coldly a few times. His sinister gaze slowly fell onto the 2 Bu elders behind Yiqing Luo. His smile became even colder. The Miao clan is not a place where you can come and go as you wish. Moreover, with those two burdens around, you can forget about leaving the Miao clan. The two Bu elders shivered. Then, bring it on, we can try. See if I have the ability to bring Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu away from the Miao clan. Towards Miao Yixiong's threat, Yiqing Luo was totally unmoved as she met Miao Yixiong's gaze calmly, as her lips twitched in ridicule. Miao Yixiong's gaze turned colder. You won't give up until all hope is gone. I'd like to see how arrogant you can be. His words had just ended when Miao Yixiong took a few steps back. Then he called out loudly, Lord Yu, I'll have to trouble you. Lord Yu. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. In her mind, a figure suddenly flashed past. The next moment she saw a tall man appearing in the dungeon. That man overlapped with the figure which flashed past Yiqing Luo's mind. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly contracted as shock flashed past her eyes. Yu Ji. The man in front of her, wasn't he Lan Lingnu's personal guard? She had once crossed hands with him at the Peach Blossom restaurant, and she was still not his match. That man called Yu Ji? Why would he appear in the Miao tribe? Ha! You didn't expect this, did you? Miao Yixiong looked at Yiqing Luo's astonished expression and burst into laughter. Young lady, do you really think that your ability is so strong that no one in the world can match you? Arrogance and confidence depend on the situation and the person. Miao Yixiong's laughter was filled with smugness and coldness. He felt a sense of exhilaration. He was the leader of the Miao tribe. But in the hands of a 15-year-old girl, he had repeatedly suffered losses. Now he could finally suppress this little girl's arrogance. He would find Yu Ji. Invite Yu Ji to the Miao tribe. It was to deal with Yiqing Luo. He learned from Miao Rongrong. The bodyguard brought by the East Wave County Lord Lan Ling Nuo was able to defeat Yi Luo easily. Therefore he borrowed Yu Ji from Lan Ling Nuo. In the process of borrowing people from Lan Ling Nuo, Miao Yixiong also noticed some clues. Although on the surface, Yu Ji's identity was said to be Lan Ling Nuo's personal guard. But in fact, every time Lan Ling Nuo spoke, she had to look at Yu Ji's expression. Especially when it concerned Yu Ji. Lan Ling Nuo appeared to be even more careful. Chapter 2473. Of course, who exactly was Yu Ji? Miao Yixiong did not mind. He only cared about whether Yu Ji could get the antidote out of Yi Luo. Nothing else mattered to him. However, there was one thing that puzzled Miao Yixiong. When he sincerely invited Yu Ji to come to the Miao tribe to help him solve his biggest problem, Yu Ji didn't even finish his words before directly rejecting him. But after that, when he and Lan Ling Nuo talked and mentioned the name Yi Luo, Yu Ji actually changed his attitude and agreed to it immediately. Then she followed him to the Miao tribe. Miao Yixiong had originally planned to bring Yu Ji to Yi Luo. If Yi Luo didn't listen to her, then let Yu Ji force Yi Luo to hand over the antidote. Who would have thought that Yi Luo would come to the Miao tribe alone for the sake of the two elders of the Bu family village? Coincidentally, Yu Ji was in the Miao tribe. This time, it could be said that Yi Luo had fallen into the tiger's den. Miao Yixiong recalled the scene of Yi Luo being tortured by Yu Ji, the scene of Yi Luo handing over the antidote and begging for mercy. The smile on Miao Yixiong's face grew even more smug. Little girl, you're not Lord Netheri's match. You'd better surrender obediently. Standing behind Yu Ji, Miao Yixiong was full of confidence. Actually, I'm not an unreasonable person. As long as you give me the antidote obediently and help Rongrong vent her anger, I'll naturally let you leave the Miao tribe. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. Such a person with such a face was actually the patriarch of the Miaogu clan? Is there no one left in the Miao tribe? Letting such a brainless person become the clan leader? Aren't you afraid that the 100 years of prestige of the Miaogu clan will be destroyed? He was a dignified clan leader, a 45 to 54-year-old middle-aged man. He hid behind a young man. Furthermore, he was acting so arrogantly, using the young man as a stepping stone to criticize others. Why did Yiqing Luo feel that this clan leader was so childish that it made one laugh? Seeing that Yiqing Luo wasn't like what he had imagined, begging bitterly, instead she looked at him and smiled. Miao Yixiong's expression turned cold, and his eyes instantly became sharp. Just as Miao Yixiong was about to continue speaking, the young girl smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling with a dreamy light. A sweet voice spilled out from the girl's pink lips. Chief suggestion is not bad. Miao Yixiong's words were stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. He felt an indescribable strange feeling. Yi Luo's smile, his tone. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't sound like he was agreeing with him. However, he couldn't tell what was strange about it. However, when he saw Yuji standing in front of him with a cold aura around him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Miao Yixiong reckoned that Yi Luo would not have a chance to make a comeback. He sneered, "You should have been this tactful from the start. Give me the antidote." Yiqing Luo touched her chin. "Even if I give it to you, do you really dare to let eldest Miss Miao take it?" Miao Yixiong clenched his fists. Indeed, even if Yiqing Luo really gave him the antidote, he did not dare to rashly give Rongrong the antidote. If Yiqing Luo gave him a fake antidote, wouldn't Rongrong also die? Miao Yixiong didn't know about the grudge between Yuji and Yi Luo. He only knew that if he took the antidote and left and the antidote was fake, by then Yi Luo would be killed by Yuji. His precious daughter would be buried along with him. No, absolutely not. Rongrong was the Miao tribe's future sacred maiden. This was the only chance for him to stabilize his position as the Miao tribe's clan leader. Chapter 2474. The more Miao Yixiong thought, the more flustered he became. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she saw through Miao Yixiong's thoughts. She scoffed and looked away in disdain. Yuji's expression was indifferent. He had been watching their battle in silence, and there was no trace of anxiety on his face. When Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto him, only then would there be a hint of arrogance between his brows, as though she looked down on Yiqing Luo from the start. The young girl in front of him was indeed not worthy of his attention. Secluded solitude. Yiqing Luo calmly called out Yuji's name. "You're here is because of me?" Yuji frowned. "Yes. Who is your master?" Hearing Yuji's reply, Yiqing Luo was almost certain that this Yuji obviously knew her real identity under her disguise. Yuji would become Lan Ling Nua's guard and come to the Northern Wave continent. It was probably because of her. These people with the surname Serenity, which plane of power did they belong to outside the Nirvana realm? Also, behind them that venerable one. Who exactly was he? Why did he target her so many times? When you die, Yama will naturally tell you. Yuji sneered. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. "I know what I'm doing even if you don't answer." Yuji's eyes flickered. "Everyone says that you are eloquent and know how to use pretense to win people's hearts. Seems that it is indeed so. Is Yuhan talking about Yunu or Yunu?" Yiqing Luo didn't beat around the bush with him as her lips curled into a sneer. "To be able to conquer people's hearts, it means that you have ulterior motives and you have something that I can use against you." Her smile gradually curved her eyes, but her expression was still extremely cold. Yuji glanced at Miao Yixiong, who was rooted to the ground as if he had been petrified. There was obvious disgust in his eyes. Following that, he looked towards Yiqing Luo and spoke out impatiently, "Give him the antidote." "You want the antidote?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows and put on a smiling look. Yuji frowned. "What? Do you want me to use force?" But even if you use force, you won't be able to get the things in my profound phoenix ring." Yiqing Luo's curved eyebrows blinked as she smiled in an infuriating manner. The profound phoenix ring was different from an ordinary interspatial ring. If it turned into an ordinary spatial ring, he wanted to take over the things inside the spatial ring. As long as he defeated his opponent and dug out his opponent's profound heart jade, he could use the power of the profound heart jade to open the spatial ring. However, the netherworld phoenix ring could only be opened by its owner. Yuji's eyes were cold and gloomy as it swept past the red jade ring on Yiqing Luo's fingertip. He suddenly flipped his palm and a thick and strange black power rolled in his palm. Immediately following that, he had already struck towards Yiqing Luo's face at lightning speed. Lady Nethery." When Miao Yixiong saw this, he cried out in shock, "The antidote! The antidote!" Yuji suddenly waved his sleeve. Miao Yixiong was sent flying by the shockwave and tumbled to the ground. She saw that powerful and majestic momentum enveloping Yiqing Luo from all directions. Miao Yixiong's pupils were filled with that black profound energy, as it exploded and collapsed in his eyes. The ground was shaking incessantly. It was as if this dungeon could collapse at any time. Under such circumstances, how could Yiqing Luo? How could she still be alive? Chapter 2475. Yuji's attention was all on Yiqing Luo's direction. He did not notice Miao Yixiong's crazy behavior. In a moment of carelessness, his arm was scratched by Miao Yixiong. Yuji's face darkened as he shook off Miao Yixiong. However, Miao Yixiong's emotions were no longer stable. He held on to Yuji tightly. Sharp nails pierced Yuji's skin. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Yuji fiercely. "You promised to get the antidote for me. How dare you go back on your word? How dare you violate our cooperation?" Yi Luo was dead. No one could cure the poison in Miao Rongrong's body. There was only 1.5 months left until the Saintess selection. Miao Rongrong could not become the Saintess. The other clans would then take advantage of the situation to rise. His position as patriarch. I can't sit still. There was nothing left. Miao Yixiong was filled with hatred towards Yuji. If it wasn't for Yuji's arrogance. He also wouldn't take advantage of Yuji's presence to mock Yi Luo repeatedly. Didn't Yi Luo want money? If it could be solved with money, then it wouldn't be a problem at all. At the very least, Rongrong could become the Saintess. At the very least, he could keep his position as the patriarch. At that time, how much money would he have? The more Miao Yixiong thought about it, the more he wanted to strangle Yuji. But Miao Yixiong had never thought about it. The person who invited Yuji over from Lanling Nuo was himself. Even though he knew that Yuji's target was Yiqing Luo, he still chose to believe in her without any hesitation, which was himself. Relying on the momentum of secluded silence who had once defeated Yiqing Luo, the one who was arrogant was still himself. What right did he have to blame others? However, Miao Yixiong would probably never understand. Yuji was annoyed by Miao Yixiong's craziness. He furrowed his brows and waved his sleeve. Miao Yixiong's body was sent flying by the strong wind released by Yuji. With an indifferent expression, Yuji turned around and walked towards the exit of the dungeon. Miao Yixiong fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he grinned and laughed loudly. "Yuji, why don't you leave? I've already planted the heart-devouring parasite in your body. As long as you leave a distance of 6 feet from me, the heart-devouring parasite in your body will eat you bit by bit, until all that's left of you is a skeleton." Yuji's figure paused and his face was covered with a thin layer of coldness. "How dare you?" Miao Yixiong said fearlessly, "I just want Rongrong's antidote. Once I get it, I'll cure you. Otherwise, all of you will be buried with the Miao tribe." In any case, he would lose the position of the Miao tribe leader. It was as if he had lost everything. Yuji lowered his head and looked at the wound on his arm that was bleeding black blood. It seemed that Miao Yixiong had used the opportunity of going berserk to plant a goo in his body. Damn it. He was too careless. The cultivation of goo and Xianxia were completely different. Yuji did not dare to rashly use Xian energy to force the goo worm out. "Miao Yixiong, I can help you get the antidote, but I won't let you go." Yuji glanced at Miao Yixiong coldly. He did not like the feeling of being threatened. Once the goo was cured, he would kill Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong was not a fool, he could clearly see the killing intent in Yuji's eyes. But Miao Yixiong could only continue to pretend that he did not know. When he got the antidote, it would be up to him to cure Yuji's goo. If he could control Yuji in his hands and make Yuji work for him. Chapter 2476. Yuji suppressed his anger at being tricked. He took quick steps towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The rubble around the dungeon was about to collapse. In the air waves were still swirling violently. Smoke and dust covered everything in front of him, making it blurry. He could vaguely see that there seemed to be 3 people lying on the ground. He didn't think about anything else and directly walked in the direction of the figure. In Yuji's knowledge, he was the strongest person in the Nirvana realm. Even if Yiqing Luo wanted to play any tricks, none of them had any effect on him. Moreover, he had absolute confidence in himself. That strike just now. Even if Yiqing Luo wasn't dead, he only had one last breath left. Yuji walked closer. The figure on the ground was dressed in red. She was lying on the ground with her face facing the ground. Her messy black hair covered half of her face. Apparently it was no doubt Yiqing Luo. Secluded silence half squatted down, his sword-like eyebrows furrowing slightly. On Yiqing Luo's body, there was a lady's delicate fragrance. It smelled much better than the artificial flowery fragrance on Dark Girl's body. "Hey." Yuji reached out and gently pushed the figure lying on the ground. But the feeling of his palm touching her was not that of a young girl's soft body. Instead, It felt extremely solid. Yuji's eyes slightly widened as he suddenly realized something. He stood up abruptly and quickly tried to retreat. But just as he stood up, his vision was filled with dizziness. His body swayed and he fell heavily to the ground. Secluded solitude? Miao Yixiong was confused when he saw Yuji suddenly fall to the ground. He propped up his body that was injured by Yuji and walked over shakily. "Don't come over." Yuji gritted his teeth and growled. His voice was hoarse and devoid of strength. Miao Yixiong's face stiffened and he stopped in his tracks. From this angle he just happened to be able to see the young girl in red lying on the ground in front of Yuji, and she seemed to be dead and didn't move at all. Yi Luo's corpse? However, if it was Yi Luo's corpse, how did Yuji suddenly become like this? Yuji was an expert who could easily defeat Yi Luo. Miao Yixiong was puzzled and looked again. Only then did he realize that the person wrapped in the red clothes was not a young girl, but a piece of steel. He then looked at the two faintly discernible figures, not far behind him. There was no need to guess. It was definitely the broken steel of the iron cage. This realization caused Miao Yixiong's eyes to gradually light up. This meant that Yi Luo was not dead. Since Yi Luo was still alive, Rongrong's poison could be neutralized. Yi Qing Luo led the Bu family's two elders, as they carefully sneaked around the dimly lit Miao Stockade village. Fortunately, the Miao Stockade village cave was a forbidden area for the Miao tribe. Apart from the entrance and certain places within the Miao Stockade village's cave that were guarded by guards, other than the entrance and certain places within the Miao Stockade village's cave, there were no other patrolling guards. The three of them did not run into anyone along the way. But what gave Yi Qing Luo a headache was, Peach did not have a map of the Hmong Stockade village. After all, it was the forbidden land of the Miao tribe. No matter how powerful Peach was, she couldn't get the map of the forbidden area. Previously, when she followed Third Elder Miao into the Miao Stockade village cave, the totem on the wall had a huge impact on her. As a result, she had no way of memorizing the route. She could only follow the feeling in her memory and led the Bu family's two elders away. Young lady,